It's been a bit of a tough week for nerds. Masters of the Universe seems to have tanked at the box office, and worse for me. I haven't had a chance to see it yet to decide for myself. And we got the news yesterday that Doctor Who is probably gone for the foreseeable rest of the decade. But, it'll be over in the blink of an eye. It's timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff. But we have comics to talk about, so let's get to it. Hey, Planeteers. Welcome to this week's Stack of Comics. Weekly Stack? Old Man Fanboy? Again, not sure what I can trademark. Anyway, every week I go to House of Secrets in Burbank and I pick up my comics, and hopefully they're all the ones I ordered, and sometimes they're more. So then I just kind of talk about some that I managed to read because I am behind in some of my stacks, but I'm actually doing pretty well at the moment. Thank you, comic streaming services. Anyway, let us begin, shall we, with this, because I think that you're going to need to pick up the trade paperback. The Muppets Noir #4 brings the latest Muppet Show comic book series to a close, and it's fun. It's got jokes that'll sail right over kids' heads and jokes that'll tickle their funny bones too, and that's what the Muppets do. So, as I felt when he was doing it for Marvel and Boom Studios, right? Roger Langridge knows his stuff. He knows the Muppets, and he's the only cartoonist I can think of that can do this book. So it is by Roger Langridge. It is fun. I hope that Dynamite is not done with the Muppets, because I really enjoyed this series. Absolute Catwoman #1. And this is by Scott Snyder and Shea Grayson with an artist named Bengal. I'm not sure. I've never heard the name out loud before, but of course, by all means, if you know which way it's pronounced, or if it's the third way that I haven't thought of, please correct me politely. I want to get people's names right. I really do. So Bengal is the artist and the cover. Giovanna Nero is the colorist, and Lucas Gattoni is the letterer. So I don't know if I thought that I was going to dig this book, but I wanted to pick it up because I like, obviously, the Absolute Universe. It is a spin-off of Absolute Batman, I guess, because she's been there. But what's great about this, and let's be fair, all of the Absolute books, with one exception, it stands on its own. There is no reference. I think she makes one reference to Bruce in there. And otherwise, it's just a cool setup for who Selina Kyle is in this universe and how she works as Catwoman. And does a little fake out at the beginning, and I'll let you see for yourself. But I really enjoyed it. And the one exception to the Absolute universe, as far as being able to stand on its own, was Absolute Green Arrow, a little bit because it spun out of the one-shot Absolute Evil. So I think in that case, you didn't have to read that, but it would have deepened the experience. I don't think you need to read Absolute Batman, but if you're not, why not? So let me go now to another #1, Altered States Warlords. Now, this is by my friend David Avalone. As always, I feel like that is a disclosure that must be made. We are friends. But these are characters that I have really come to love as an adult. Mariano Benitez Chapo is the artist. Jorge Sutil is the colorist. And Jeff Eckelberry is the letterer. This too is from Dynamite Comics. They scored very well in my stack this week. And this is Dynamite's kind of take on What If. They play with concepts with the characters outside of whatever continuity, because I don't necessarily read all the regular books of these. But anyway, it's Warlords because it takes place on Barsoom, aka Mars. It's dealing with Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter characters, and the Lord of the Jungle is promised as well. But it actually begins with Red Sonja getting transported to Barsoom 10,000 years in its past. And so, when John Carter shows up, there's this Legend of Red Sonja. So that's not a spoiler. That's what the first issue was about. And from the cover, that I guess that Vampirella will be showing up as well, because I think she has to show up in all of their crossovers. She's a popular character. I just don't read it. Anyway, I did really enjoy this. I've enjoyed David's work on the Red Sonja Noir, which another one of those is coming out very soon. And so I think you will have fun with Aldrich Tate's Warlords. Even if you're not a Pulp Fiction fan, which I know from having talked to him many times about it, David Avalone is. So let me take another Pulp Fiction thing, Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan, but it is not from, to the best of my knowledge, the Edgar Rice Burroughs company. This is, it's both from Alien Books, which is sort of Valiant, and is distributed through IDW by Steve Orlando and Renato Guedes. And yes, I mean, the suspense is killing you, isn't it? Tarzan Beyond, and which I think they're doing Zorro Beyond. I talked about Zorro by Howard Chaykin a bit ago, but there's a new like modern day one, and that's what this is. And why I'm not thinking that it's part of the Edgar Rice Burroughs approved continuity is because in those books, what they've done is essentially had him go to Pellucidar, and that's a logical place. Although I think in one of my friend Win Scott Eckert's novels, he does say he's going back to fight for Waziri liberation. But this is modern day, does a great job of laying out who all the different players are, civilizations that Tarzan is involved in here, and an explanation of his immortality, all within the first few pages. And I think that's great. So if you've never read a Tarzan story before, and I understand why people wouldn't, those books, I read them as a kid, and I have a bunch on my shelf, but they were, a little problematic, but this takes it out of it. So this was fun. Of course, I love Steve Orlando's work because he is the one that's been running the Scarlet Witch for Marvel. This is fun, and which I'm very good at segues today. This one, Jay and Silent Bob, is from Marvel. Jay's a Future Past, which, yeah, the pun is valuable, but really, the title doesn't quite work. But anyway, it's interesting that they've now established there's an Earth 616, Jay and Silent Bob. So the events of Clerks take place on Marvel Earth. Maybe that's okay. Look, they're all imaginary stories. I was prepared to go throughout this, but I also want to say this is Kevin Smith is the writer, Giuseppe Camuncoli is the penciler, and the inkers are Cam Smith and Roberto Poggi. The colorists are Marcio Menz and Eric Arciniega, and the letters are VC's Travis Lanham and Joe Sabino. So this was actually pretty fun. I mean, I get that Kevin Smith's sensibilities aren't for everyone, and that's okay. I happen to like his work. I happen to like the Clerks movies and the characters of Jay and Silent Bob. A little of them for me does go a long way, but hey, in a comic book that actually works. And I think in some ways it works even better because you can take it at its pace, and I think that Smith has been smart enough to work with artists who can change it around a little bit, and he's not limited to his own sense of how to frame a scene. And this artist also does some things. I don't know if I'm right on this, but the book definitely homages a bunch of different things from Marvel's past. It is a celebration of Marvel as well as a celebration of Kevin Smith. Hey, he's still around, 35 years. Good Lord, making films and being a comic book pundit expert. Absolutely. Probably knows more than me. which again, these days, that's not hard to say because I just don't remember what I did. But anyway, there are homages in the art. I think at one point, like Thor gets treatment that looks a little bit like Walt Simonson's run. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it, but I did enjoy the book. And if you can find it, great. Book you probably can't find, and I couldn't yesterday, was Mask #1. And the reason I wanted it was not because I like Mask at all, which sounds worse than I mean it to sound, because it's just I never played with the toys. I think there was a cartoon series. I didn't do that. It's part of Hasbro and Skybound's Energon universe, but they've also pulled in ROM. And so if you bought the blind bag issue #1 of Mask, uh, there was a 1 in 3 chance that you would get the first issue of ROM. So I'm annoyed at those kinds of tactics. And Skybound's not the only one doing it, clearly, because Marvel's doing it a lot. And I think I have something else on my stack that is bagged, though maybe not blind bagged. Anyway, so I can't tell you if I liked Robert Kirkman's take on ROM. I've read everybody's has been 2 different companies, and I just hope then that if they're going to roll ROM into the Energon universe, then I hope that they roll in the Micronauts. Now, I do want to say I have given every Energon book. Am I even saying that right? Do they do it with a high? Well, I mean, it's got to be Energon, right? That's the stuff that powers Transformers. I read a lot of the G.I. Joe relaunch. I read 12 issues of the Transformers with Daniel Warren Johnson, and you realize, no, they were good comics. It was just, as I would say, it's not necessarily for me, and I'm not as invested as someone who really grew up with these franchises. Now, I made a joke up top about Masters of the Universe, and I think I've said before, the reason I care about that is not because I had any toys. I don't have any Masters of the Universe toys in my dark secret past, but I was a freshman in college when the cartoon started, and it was kind of like a good study break in the afternoon. And so I would watch the show. And I loved Orko, who I don't know if he's in the movie because I haven't seen it. So, I joke that it's tanked, but I don't know that it has. There could be word of mouth. There's just so many good films, and the window isn't that long these days. So yeah, if you got a copy of ROM #1, please let me know what you thought, because I'm sure somewhere it will show up, whether it's digital on Global Comics. I hope I don't have to go to Comixology, but maybe. So let me know. I'd love to know. Leland at House of Secrets said, well, I'll put you down, there'll be a second printing. And I said, no, I have no doubt about that. My problem is then if they do a second printing, will it still be a blind bag thing? Or will they just release ROM #1 as a second printing? I would be happy with that. So anyway, there we go. That's it. Comics. It was good. I read a lot, and I hope you did too. And maybe you take some time this weekend to do so. And no matter what, use your powers for good.